Everyone, welcome back. Another episode of Trail Culture. This week, this is actually so easy for me to do because I'm sitting here with a great friend. She was Lijan van die Kerk. She is now Lijan Burger. Very confusing, I know, for all the fans, but Lijan is a great friend, a Stellenbosch local, a Salomon athlete, and just an all-round amazing human. And growing up in Stellenbosch, Lijan has been exposed to running in many forms, from the track side of things to cross country, road, trails, and she's really just someone who's grown up around what we would call trail culture from a young age. And she's got a lot of impressive results in every single discipline. So we're not going to go through all of them. It will take too long. And recently she has been taking on marathon distance, things like the Otter Trail. She's brave enough to toe that start line, but I would really call her a specialist in the shorter distance trails, the 25K, that category. She has a lot of blitz fast records all over the country in that distance. So Lijan, it's great to have you on the podcast. I'm glad I could convince you to come and talk to all of us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that sweet intro. Glad to be on the podcast. Yeah, can't say I'm not nervous, but let's see how it goes.
Is it your first podcast, Lijan?
Yeah.
Nice. But you've done interviews and all sorts of things.
I don't know. Yeah, small ones post-race where you don't look amazing. But yeah.
No, I'm like, now this is calm environment. So
yeah,
it'll be good. And Lijan, I mean, to start off our classic, we like to jump into a little bit of who the human is. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and just like what brought you into the running space?
Yeah, so to go back from the beginning, basically, I've been thinking about this actually recently, just doing some research or finding out a bit more about what makes Kenyan runners so good at running. And I heard that they walk to school from a young age, like 10 kilometers, and they have this huge aerobic base from probably as soon as they could walk. And I'm like, oh, I actually didn't have the most active, sporty, very young childhood. I mean, I was always outdoors playing a lot of games like 1, 2, 3 block and all those things like that. But yeah, I can't say I was like so sporty. I started off probably running in grade 6. I remember we did my first run was in Jonkershoek, the circle route. We did a fundraiser for, it was called the Big Walk, but we ran and we did the 10K, and I was, I think, grade 6. And then my first trail race was probably the Dassie at the Otter, when my dad did the Otter run, and that was when I was in grade 11. I think that was probably one of my first trail races. But coming back to primary school, I had started soccer in probably grade 5. I enjoyed soccer, and I was a midfielder. So I think there you run a lot. You help the strikers in the front, and then you go back to the defense. So you run a lot in a match. And one of my trail running inspirations, Grayson Murphy, she's trail running world champ. She did soccer when she was, she started off as a soccer player. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm basically her.
I'm doing something right.
It must be. So I did soccer, and I even did soccer. I started at Renish Girls High School in grade 8, and I did soccer in grade 8 still. And then my best friend, one of my best friends, Suzanne Hobson, she was training at the dog squad.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then she and her mom convinced my parents to send me also to the dog squad, which is basically an independent running squad in Stellenbosch, owned by Johan and Marinda Fourie.
Yes.
Johan Fourie is was a big track athlete in his day, very famous. So then I started running with that group, and that really got me into running, and I actually then stopped with soccer. But actually, probably the first person that just got me into running was my dad. I would go with him out into trails around Kutsenberg. But back then it wasn't really a thing. I don't know. I didn't really know about trail running. We just had access to running around areas where it wasn't on tar and next to cars, but it wasn't like I'm going on a trail run. We just went.
Yes, you just went running.
That
is so cool.
I think my dad was a big influence on my running journey and where it started.
I actually, that's so interesting, Lijan. Your dad, what a legend. I've had the privilege of meeting him. I think he made everyone cry at your wedding in his amazing speech. But I mean, you come from an active but also talented family, and I like tell us a little bit about that. I know your dad's in kind of part of the running inspiration, but I mean, both your sisters are also. Like they've got stuff going on. Your mom was she a dancer? Like your parents have got this amazing like history. It came out a little bit at the wedding, but like a family that values movement. Like, yeah.
So I forgot about this actually, but my parents have a very cool and interesting story of how they met. My mom is Swiss and she grew up in Switzerland, and my dad is South African, and they met on a karate training camp in South Africa. So yeah, they both did karate. They both have black belts.
What?
Yeah.
No way. Not to mess. Your parents were so chilled. I'm like, they could take you out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I never did karate. I was never interested. I think they stopped pretty soon after they had my older sister.
Yeah.
And then my mom has always been very like active. She's always very busy, but not really like sporty, as in like so, I don't know, like team sport is anyways hard to play as you're older.
Yes.
But yeah, she did a lot of yoga like later to her pregnancies and things, and my dad was then running. I think he started doing like the Otter Trail, and I heard I'm familiar with the different trail races due to him.
Yeah.
He did Old Fisherman's also and all these, and Bastille, I remember him doing all those trail runs.
Wow.
So they started off with karate, and now my dad does trail running as well. And I coach him as well.
I was going to ask, is he still running and you coach your dad? That's awesome.
To keep him active.
Does he listen?
Kind of. Mostly.
Okay, that's something we have in common. I'm also coaching my dad, and it's like he's also the one who got me into the sport, and now he's like, how did we switch roles? Like I used to tell you what to do, and now you tell me.
But so I think more about the role of family in movement. You were also asking about my sisters. So my younger sister is a ballet dancer, so I think that's where you thought maybe my mom was a dancer. She loves dancing. She also did a little bit of ballet at a stage, but my younger sister is a ballet dancer that's actually
amazing.
In Germany at the moment at a ballet school.
And that's crazy in terms of also discipline and training. I mean, that's, if you think ballet is a joke, you've never tried it. I didn't last very long. You all little girls like do ballet, and then I think I was too clumsy. But as I've got older, that's actually something I love to watch. And whenever kind of the ballet performs in Cape Town, then I'll go watch, and I'm always like, those are athletes.
Yeah. It's really cool to watch, but I can't watch. Well, I do, but I'm so nervous when I watch my sister perform. I'm just,
really?
Yeah, it's hardly enjoyable because I'm just like,
but like that she shouldn't fall or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Just because you know the person, I think. And but she's a good performer, and
And I mean, now you've also. You're recently married to one of the sportiest humans that I know. I mean, Lijan Burger, and like. Rumor has it, I never thought that you would do anything other than run in terms of sport, because why? And then when you met Francois, I think initially when you guys started spending time together, I was like, which boy is Lijan cycling for? like she's climbing on a bike now. And I mean, you guys are obviously your own little family now, and like the sports theme still pulling through like strongly.
Yes, so we actually so coming back to just my running history, so I was in high school, I was with the dog squad, and we did inter-schools and 4M, and I did a lot of track then. That's what I was basically training for, 800 meters and 1,500 meters on the track, and did different events like Friday evenings at the Kutzenberg Marty's track events, and then went to Boerland Champs, and those things. And then when university started, I was looking then for another type of group to join, and then I heard of, I think also through Suzanne Hobson, the Stellenbosch triathlon squad. So that's where I decided then I just did the running part of it. I didn't do the cycling or the swimming, but that's where I actually met my husband.
Crazy.
And I think that's where I really started picking up my running and really becoming more serious, maybe because I wanted to impress him and be in the front and show off a little bit. But I mean, that's where I really starting to actually do some trail runs and other road events, and got a coach. I got my first coach was from the Stellenbosch triathlon squad, Quibus. So he coached me, and so that's where I met Francois.
And that's where we met.
Yes.
Crazy. Like, so for those, I think we've had Quibus and Colin on the podcast as well. So a couple of the STS people, but just to give some context, what Lijan was talking about with the groups is there's like there's kind of depending on the size of a group, you all meet, and there's a fast group, and it is very fast, and then the regular group, and then I don't even want to call it slow. I just want to call it like slightly less fast, because
it's not slow.
I was like, all the speed groups are kind of fast, but you break up and do your intervals and things, and the classic like laps around Jan Marais. But we would always meet at the statue, the Donny Craven statue in the center of Stellies. And I remember how we became friends. I think I knew Suzanne, but I was so shy. I joined this running club. I didn't know what I was doing. Suzanne was the only one I knew, and she then, I think you were standing talking to her, and I kind of walked up and I was like, hello. And then when I heard you were English, I was like, yes. But then you quickly obviously ran away. But I think that's where it all started. That's years ago. It's crazy to think.
I think 2017.
Crazy.
That was
we're
first
getting
year.
old.
I know. First year of university. Yeah.
And I mean, now you've had, just with you and Francois, I mean, I always tease him. I'm like, when is he going to run? I mean, he's like at Mutt, because he's such a good runner. And he's like, like he's just here to watch you. And I'm like waiting for the moment that you guys sign up for like an epic stage race together as a team.
I really hope I can convince him once to do a stage race with me. But he really does prefer his mountain biking. But it's really nice to do some cross training, especially in like the off season in December. We do a lot of cycling together, and that's so nice. Long days out on the bike. I'm not great at the technical downhill. I literally have a segment in Jonker's Hook down Never Ending Story, and I can run faster downhill than I cycle.
No ways.
I'm not great with the technical mountain bike things, but another reason is I don't want to get fall and break my collarbone and then I can't run. I'm not classic, very Francois gets a bit upset. I don't try and do dangerous thing. I don't take any risks on the bike. But so Decembers are nice. We do a lot of gravel cycling, so then I don't have to worry about the technical single track.
You can just enjoy cruise. So cool. And I mean, Lijan, you started running, I mean, grade 11, like you did the soccer and you joined the dog squad, and then Otter or the Dassie was one of your first events. So it's been kind of over 10 years now, or 10 years
really
this year.
Getting old.
But I'm like, how have you stayed motivated? I mean, I think a lot of with the trail space developing, like you grew up in a trail culture maybe without even realizing it. But for example, the Kutsenberg track, I mean, you mentioned it now, and I know that you still train there week in, week out. So it's like how do you stay motivated,
To be honest, I don't. But I think that's normal. You can't expect to be motivated the whole time. And I think that's what some people get wrong. They think like, they're going to stop now because they're not motivated anymore. But it's more, you must just stay disciplined, and like the cliche type things, consistency is key. But then also you have to stay disciplined, but then still listen to your own body. Like if you have a little niggle, you mustn't stay disciplined and now carry on running through it. So with motivation, I think it's really normal to go through cycles of when you really don't feel like running actually. But you must just make sure it doesn't get to a stage where you hate running. And so I think one of my really good friends and really talented runners, Kyla Jacobs, she always says she's actually just a social runner that happens to be competitive. And I think I'm exactly the same. It's my friends and my training group and my family and Francois that keep me
keep
me motivated and keep me accountable. I love running with people. I don't run alone very often. Sometimes like with a good trail culture podcast. But yeah, I love running with other people. I've met the best people, my best friends are I've met through running. I've met such great people, and you have a lot in common. And I met my husband through sport, and thinking back now, my parents met actually through a sport as well.
Sports done great things for the funny cats and the burgers.
But I think also having people like keeping you accountable. I think some people, if you don't feel like running, they're like, oh, okay, then don't go. But you need some people that also they tell you, go, you'll feel so much better.
Yes.
I think that's also it's a running thing, maybe, because França knows I'm going to be so grumpy and not a very nice person if I don't get my endorphin fix. So maybe he's like, you have to go, please, for my sake. But then when I really don't feel like running, sometimes I just have grace with myself and be like, okay, just don't go. It's fine if you sometimes have some rest days after each other so I think awesome. You mustn't expect to be motivated the whole time, basically.
And I mean, just with other people motivating you, I think, you grew up over the road from Suzanne Hobson, who I am trying so hard to get her on the podcast. She's just obviously came back from her amazing adventure race, and I'll convince her. But
definitely.
I remember she was always someone who, Monday and Wednesday with STS, it was always like, are you going to go to running, especially in winter when it's dark and cold? And I remember I always used to message her because I knew that she would never tell me not to go. She never tells you what you want to hear. She's like, no, man, let's go. Like, it's just rain. You'll be fine.
Exactly. And that's there's not always so many excuses not to go running unless you've got a niggle, an injury or something. Like, bad weather isn't always really an excuse. Just wear good gear. And I think definitely coming back to the motivation side of things, that's why I love my training group. It's like a time and a place. You have to be there. It's every Tuesday and Thursday, and it's just a constant, and that's like interval sessions with other people help so much. They help to push you and just to get you to do it. And I think scientifically there's studies that show that the effort feels much easier when you are with other people.
Amazing.
Get yourself training buddies. It's really, really helpful.
And Lijan's always up for a coffee or a smoothie run. That's always the thing. It's like in summer, smoothies, winter, coffees.
Exactly,
No, that's awesome.
Another thing, sorry, I just remembered now, in the dog squad already that we had tough points. So you would get tough points if you came to training when it was rainy or stormy. Maybe that's where it all started, like just go
developing
it's always hard to go out when it's raining. But if you're out the door and it starts raining, then it's fine. It's just to get yourself to go if it's pouring.
And Lijan, you've got a lot of race experience. I think especially for your age, you've raced a lot. But have you found does crazy weather concern you? Like the extremes, if it's like super hot or super cold, or rainy or windy? Because I stick to the shorter distances, that's the one cool thing about it, is that you can race so much. So I have done quite a few races now. It does add an extra challenge, especially Otter last year when it was so muddy and slippery. So freezing,
then you have to change your mindset a bit, maybe not focus on a time goal and more on position, because it will influence your time. If it's really hot or it's very slippery and wet, then that does make it more challenging. But I know some people like it when it's more wet or hot. But I actually like just normal, mild conditions. I think some people like to make it harder. Maybe if they feel not prepared or not as fast or fit, then they like it when there's other challenges that will keep the fast guys back because it's now super slippery. But I don't, that's not something I like. Just a sunny day without wind or rain, not too hot, not too cold.
And we all know that Lijan prefers a midday or later race start. It's like that was one
I'm
thing
not
I
a
was so
morning
bonded
runner.
on. We would try and set up a run, and then it's like, like, are you keen to go at like 10 instead of like
Yes.
6 o'clock in the morning? You know,
I think a lot of people think that runners are all these morning people and that they love running from 5 to 6 in the dark. I'm definitely not one of those, especially when it's cold. I'm also just a summer baby.
Yeah, you love that summer.
Yeah.
That summer weather. And Lijan, I mean, you've raced not just in South Africa, I mean, all over the country, but you've even had quite a few international kind of experiences. But just with trail running, and you've been in the sport for a while, like, is there an ultimate like dream on the trails for you? I know we joke now about you doing a stage race with Francois, but is there, you know, either a mission or an FKT or a route or a race that you've kind of, you know, that's high up on the list?
Sure. This is a difficult question to answer because there's so many. But basically, what I want to be able to run for the rest of my life. So I think that's one of my ultimate goals, is to make it sustainable.
Yeah.
So keep it balanced and not burn out and then hate running or so I think that's basically probably my main goal, is to keep running for as long as possible. And I think trail running is, you can run for really long. Like when we were in Innsbruck at World Champs last year, a lot of the people on the podiums, they were not like the 20-year-old young, super young athletes. It showed that you can beat the best in the world being 40 and over. So so that was actually really inspiring.
Yeah, that year in, year out of training that just like compounds and
and I think because there's so many different goals and races I'd like to do across the world, that's a thing I'd love to just keep traveling with trail running and do. It's so nice to go to a country and then do a race there, and it shows you go to places that you wouldn't have normally gone because of there's a cool race there, and you get to explore the whole town if you do a big loop in it. It's the best way to see a new place, I think. So I hope to do a lot of races from America to Asia. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, you've still got a long career ahead of you. And I think on your comment on to be able to run and race for the rest of your life, your fellow Salomon teammate Ryan Sands at George Mutt, he had that post-race interview where I think there was a big dice between Robbie Roerich and Ian Peterkin and Ryan, and right at the end he just said, you know, like, I just had to show the young guys that I can still like
I was so happy for him and proud of him.
And I think I can see that in your future, and also with your speed. I feel sorry for anybody who's trying to compete with you. But I think, Lijan, before we get into your kind of the more of your how you've approached your own training specifically and choosing the races and the distances, another one of the reasons why we became friends, or one of when you warm up with STS where we met, like you have like 20 minutes of time to chat, and then as soon as the intervals start, nobody talks because it's so intense. And one of the things is you have like a holistic approach to health and wellness and now training, because I think that's just, it all kind of speaks to each other. But that is like one of the things I wanted to chat to you about was, I remember once we were talking about having headaches. It was like when we were both studying at screen time. Do you remember it?
We were at Kauai, sitting outside there with smoothies.
And we were like speaking about this headache, and then we both went, you know, oh, well, we were raised to not take Panado and to just take magnesium, you know. And I remember, you know, sometimes you say that, and as the kid who was raised like that, I was always like, oh, people are going to think I'm weird.
I didn't tell everyone.
And then you were like, and then we had this like common interest. And I know convenience and certain things. I always think of you, like I traveled recently and I had this splitting headache on the plane, and the only thing that was offered to me was Panado. And I was like, oh no, like I have to, you know, go this route. So I'm not, sometimes you just have to. But chat to us a little bit, Lijan, about what you think defines like good health. We're going to link it to sport just now, but
sure, it's a difficult one, but I think, I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly, but that's why I love being a coach actually, is because it feels like I'm making such a positive impact on someone's lifestyle, because if they want to start running more, it improves so many different aspects of their lifestyle. So from sleep to their relationship to family because you want to now run more. So then I also tell them, okay, that you must also focus on sleep, and you must focus on your post-run nutrition and your pre-run nutrition. And I think with running, you get that runner's high. So then they're also in a better mood and everything.
Yeah.
They'll probably stop drinking alcohol, or not completely, but maybe
minimize it.
It just has a knock-on effect, and everything starts improving, I think, if you become more active. So I think, what was your question? What's
your kind of approach to like what do you think defines good health?
Yeah, I think balance, basically. And just everything in moderation. It's kind of the cliche things, but they're
the things that work. They're the cliches for a reason.
So, and focus on, a lot of people, I think, focus on the small, like marginal gains a bit too much. Like the core things are the main things that make a difference, I find, is just like stress reduction, movement, sleep, water, good food.
The basic. We sound like plants. It's like you need water and sunlight and
sunlight, outdoors. Trail. That's why trail running's good. Out in nature.
And Lijan, I mean, your background is, I think that's actually something we briefly chatted. I was like, tell us what you studied and how you get here, because I think people know you as a runner and a coach and, all around just great human, but then it's like you have a voice on this that's more than just an opinion, which I think few people know.
So when I was in matric, I really didn't know what to study. I'm not the most decisive person. So, so then I took a gap year hoping that I'd find out what I would exactly want to do. And then I decided then on a Bachelor of Science at Stellenbosch University. I was thinking I wanted to actually study, for a brief moment, medicine, but then I wasn't sure if I wanted to, if I really had that passion to do medicine for now studying 7 years plus, I don't know how long after as well. So I knew I liked health and exercise and the human body, basically. So then I decided to do, I majored in biochemistry and physiology, and then I did my honors in human physiology.
Okay.
So similar to medicine, but not quite. I really enjoyed it. I just didn't really know after my honors if I should now carry on with masters and PhD and go down the more academic route. You have gone, or if I should now start working. So that was also another challenging decision-making time.
And I think throughout all of this, Lijan, like you've always had a very keen interest in nutrition, like not just within the sports space. I think that is a puzzle that you are trying to piece together slowly but surely, but like your day-to-day nutrition. And I just, you and Suzanne were always people for me who like had these recipes and these things that you were making, and I love that. And I think you used to roast your own coffee in the oven. Was that you?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay, there was someone who took it that far, and I was like, wow.
Suzanne and I always chatted about health and nutrition a lot. So I think I've always I've tried to eat healthy forever, but not in a very bad, like, this is good food, this is bad food. Tried to just eat healthy, which means balance, and I really believe that you must eat all food groups, not cut out, eat protein, fat, and carbs, not cut out one of them. They're all there for a reason. So just basically diversity as well. Try and have a little bit of a lot of different things every week, and focus on, with running especially, I'm not perfect and I still need to improve this more, but like in that window after exercise, try and focus on getting in carbs and protein for recovery, and getting in enough vegetables, and I think just trying to make your diet less processed and more whole foods. And Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of people focus on in-race nutrition. And I mean, you mentioned it earlier, like there's core things that don't look at small margins first, change the big
Yeah.
margins. And with just applying some sort of balance to your everyday fuel, that's like 80% of what you're doing day in, day out. And if you make small changes there, you'll feel it in training and in your racing.
Yeah, definitely. For in racing, I wish I was one of those people that could like just race off like dates and apples, and but like especially when you do the shorter distances at such a high heart rate and so intense, I can't chew anything.
Yes.
I need something liquid and like a type of gel. So yeah, I like a more type of a carb mix in a bottle that you in one sip you're getting your electrolytes, your calories and carbs and water. So that's nice. And then gels as well. Don't really like very syrupy gels, more of like a liquid type of hydrogel. So yeah, I'm recently actually an ambassador for Precision Fuel and Hydration. And yeah, so I first tested out some of their products before I just said yes. And then I was really impressed. Really love their gels, and they're not the syrupy. They're like in between, and they work really well. Yeah,
easier to get down as well.
So,
but on that, Lijan, I mean, putting the puzzle pieces together, I think it takes time. Like as people are getting into the sport as well, and we're going to speak about the growth just now, but even as a coach, this, there's no quick fix. I think there's a lot of ways to be strategic and clever about your training, but I think with nutrition, we're seeing a huge push for, which product or brand can just offer me the thing that's going to work the first time. And I think that's so much pressure to put on yourself and your gut and these brands that are putting stuff into the space. So how have you and I know for you, we've had lots of chats. Sometimes it's come together for you. Other days, I know you had an otter not so long ago that, your nutrition almost ended your race, and, how have you managed like the kind of jigsaw puzzle situation that is sports nutrition in race?
So I think you definitely have to train with it. Some people obviously don't try anything new on race day. So you
classic.
You have to train your not only train your muscles and your heart and everything, you also train your gut. So on training runs, you practice what you're going to do on race day so that you see if it works or not. And if it doesn't, then you change some things. So I think that's what you basically have to try, see what works for you. Everyone's so different. Some people love it and it works, and some people, they must do something totally different. But it's coming back to the wish I could just eat dates and apples or whatever. I wish, I don't know what the long-term effects are of there's something that concerns me sometimes of having every weekend basically on your long run all these sugars and gels and things. But I think as long as your week to week nutrition, your 3 meals a day and those things bring in all the nutrients, and you don't have too high sweets and sugar things
over and above that.
Over and above that, I'm hoping it should be fine. But I think also coming back to the beginning about our panados, I think a lot of people, they just they just take medicine or something for the symptoms, but they don't actually look at the root cause. And that's why when I have a headache, I don't just take a Panado. Because I want to know when it stopped. So if I take a Panado, I don't know when it stopped. And I want to know, try to figure out why I have a headache. Or that's just an example, but with everything, in my running so far, I think I've been able to be basically injury free for so many years, just because you listen to your body and you listen to the niggles and you listen to the small whispers before they become shouts. I think that's the saying. So as soon as something hurts a little bit, I immediately go to the physio or sort it out or take 2 days off running. So it's just 2 days and not 2 months. So just listening to your body, and that's also with any other thing. I think a lot of females, some people have hormonal issues, but then they just go on the pill. but that's just masking the symptoms. As soon as they go off the pill, they're probably, all those hormonal problems are still there.
Yes.
So that's what I really believe. And I think a lot of doctors out there, I think that's also one of the reasons I didn't want to study medicine in a way, was they focus a lot on medicine.
Yes. And giving medicine
and
out.
giving medicine for which different disease, and not really looking at your whole lifestyle and holistic.
Where does this come from?
Yeah, and everything's so intertwined and related. Like even with running, if your Achilles is sore, it could be because of your neck or something. It's like all connected. Maybe not so far away, but
it's so interesting. Then I'm just thinking now. I was at a talk. I don't know if you were there with me or if I went with Suzanne, but it was a few years ago, and it was actually Brad Weiss and Flora Duffy gave this talk, and then it was on nutrition, and then somebody asked Brad about, world famous triathlon. He's amazing, and they said to him, what is your biggest advice for somebody getting into triathlon and training? And what he said has stuck with me my whole life, and it's coming up now, or since then, my whole life since then. And he said, don't try and smash the lights out on every single session, so specifically with triathlon or running where there's high volume. He was like, you need to show up for the session that day, the next week, the next month. So if you go and you try and swim a PB and then go straight onto the bike and then have a 5K time trial straight off the bike and into the run, you're going to probably not show up for training the next day. And that then there's a lack of continuity, which everyone knows is the greatest enemy of progress.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking now with your kind of perspective on listening to your body, it's to take, not to try smash the lights out, to take that day off, to listen, to figure out, why do I have a headache? Is it because I'm dehydrated, or am I very stressed? Am I studying for something? Trying to identify that so that you can show up the next day, as opposed to take a Panado, push through, and then you're out for 2-3 weeks because you've got X, Y, and Z going on.
Also, I think a lot of runners take anti-inflammatories too easily, and and then you mask the pain, and then you don't know if it's gotten worse or better, and you kept on running, and it just messes with your body signals, I think. And sometimes inflammation is good.
The information cycle, story for another time.
I know,
that's a natural process.
Is basically causing inflammation and stress, but it's the recovery from that stress that leads to adaptations. And
I know, it's you can only adapt to the session you can recover from. And I think if you're taking painkillers unnecessarily, and then you mask, there's that inhibitor that then gets that pain receptor is then dulled, and then you push through too far to what you should have, and then you can't recover from that. And again, then it's a 2-week break instead of recovering for a day.
I like also what you said, in training you go hard, but you never smash yourself. You must build fitness, you mustn't improve fitness. So
that's good, Dan.
In running, in interval sessions, you don't go max effort basically ever.
It's save that for race
easy
day.
Runs must be easy.
Nice. Easy runs must be easy. I love it. Every single coach is going to send this to their athletes and be like, listen, easy runs must be easy. But and do you think the trail space is growing? We know that. I mean, you've been around for a while, and I'm sure you've noticed, your first OTTO, your first UTCT to what it is now, or UTD, MUT, any of those things. And do you feel like the trail space is reflecting, kind of good health and wellness? I know this is so hard to answer, but just generally.
I think yes, especially like I said, with more people getting into trail running, and it's from doing nothing to starting a sport or movement is really good for overall health. That's why I love coaching and things, and more people, it seems, are getting a coach, and they're not it's only for professional athletes. And getting a coach also makes sure that you don't overtrain and lead to injury and burnout. So I think in the beginning, as a beginning, like a beginner trail runner, I think it's quite a healthy environment. I think maybe more on the pro level, there's not as much health there. I don't know. Sometimes that's something that I wonder about, if it's so healthy to run so much. But I think at this stage, I actually people think maybe you have to run so much to be good at running, but you don't have to run that much. It's not like you're running the whole day. You do maybe 1 or 2 runs a day. You do a lot of cross training, and I think, but generally I really think that trail running is really good for your health, physically and mentally. Mentally as well, like just getting out into nature, it's shown that it decreases mental health issues, or it improves your mood or your well-being. There's like a quote or something that I remember actually seeing on Instagram that never trust a negative thought you have indoors. So that was like, oh, that's such a cool
wow
saying.
I love that. Get outside into the sun, put your feet on the grass, and have run the thought by again.
If you're feeling a bit down, not a run, but even if you just go out into nature for a walk or something, I think it can really help. And I think that's what's great about trail running. People are getting more outdoors. They then also want to preserve nature reserve and natural environments. So it's also good for getting people to like nature and look after it, not litter, the right
and things,
try and use less plastic and all that. So I think it is a healthy sport. Also, that's what I love about it. You out in nature, you're not breathing in car fumes next to the road.
Yes.
So that's really what I love about trail running as well.
Stuck inside a gym all day. I know we all need the strength, but it's like trying to get a trail runner indoors is like torture.
So hard.
It's like, why? And in summer when the weather's so good, it's like, it's hard to stay inside. And Lijan, I mean, even in the intro, we've alluded to it now, and in the intro, I introduced you as like the short distance specialist. And I know maybe like a love-hate relationship there, in the sense, like I know you've got some incredible talent in those distances. You've set up fast course records. You've, and then you've bravely stepped up to the kind of marathon distance. But it feels like you haven't rushed, and you can still be found on the track twice a week. You haven't lost your speed despite going to the longer distances. And you've just mentioned now, like you actually don't have to run that much. So like talk to us a little bit about that, like how you've made decisions about your training and the distances and keeping track. And
so it's probably due to my coach mainly, Ernie Groen. That's who we train with in Stellenbosch at Kutsenberg Track, normally twice a week in like the track season, and once a week, or actually in winter we don't go so often to the track, but I actually love the track. I come from a track background in high school, but track races are super scary, and I think a lot of people get scared off from the track, maybe because they did it a bit in high school, and the races, they are super scary, but it's such a good place to build speed. It's so much fun actually in a group to really just have a flat surface where you can run as fast as you can. And I really believe to build speed and maintain speed while you're young, because it's easier when you're younger to build and keep the speed, and then take that speed into the longer distances. When you get older, it's almost a bit easier to build endurance, but you have that, if you come into that space with the speed that you built when you were younger, it'll mean that you can run the longer distances faster, I think. And so my coach Ernie, he always says, don't go too far too soon. And I can see that I'm saying the same to my athletes as well now that I'm coaching. I mean, I also enjoy the shorter races so much more.
I think, and that's so cool. Like you enjoy that. I think another kind of person that and friend of yours as well, Bianca Tarberton. I mean, she was just like, this is just what I like to do.
I literally was just going to say.
She's like, I feel no pressure to do, or she's like, people can say it, but like marathon, she's like, I want to become an expert at this before I even think about moving on. And I know she's got that whole dialed in scientific thing going for her as well. So it's cool. But I like that you say that as well. Like, this is what you enjoy. So this is what you're going to do.
And I remember I listened to her podcast, and she was like, I want to be back for breakfast. I think that's what she said. And I was
Oh, yeah.
or like a
Or
brunch.
a second breakfast.
Second breakfast.
Yes.
So yeah, I really enjoy like starting off, and basically the 25K distance, you're basically going max effort from the start. It's so it's so
intense.
tough, and shorter isn't necessarily easier. I don't know if anyone's ever done like a 5K on the track, you'll understand. It's shorter isn't easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky to get it right and go almost max effort, but not max effort, because then you will bonk. So you have to find that balance. But it's just so much fun. And yeah, I know I have felt a bit of pressure. Everyone always asks, especially at every little race interview or something, they're like, when are you going to do the 40K or the 60K?
Yeah.
So there is a bit of, people always wonder like why, and that's kind of what I want to change, especially in South Africa. It feels like a lot of trail runners, the first race they do is maybe the 20K, then already the next month they're doing the 40, and then the next month it's a 60, the next month is 100K, and then it's like 100 milers. So they jump up in distance so quickly, and I really want to show people that you can get better and better at the shorter distances, and make it more popular and make it competitive. I think in South Africa, a lot of the shorter distance races people think aren't as competitive, but if you look at,
I find it like, wow, you guys are all
all the races, they really hype up the longer distances. Like,
I see,
they have the most prize money, they have the most social media cover. Everything about the longer distance, they get the most points. Like ITRA and UTMB and all that. But yeah, I think I just want to, like in Europe, you can see that the shorter distances are
incredible culture around that.
Yeah, and it's not like, you're doing the baby race, or
no, not at all,
or the fun run.
Yeah,
like I've gotten that before. So overweight.
Oh my gosh, I would never dare a fun run with those times.
Yeah. So like if you look at George Martinau, I think the 25K was really
it was one of the most competitive races of the weekend.
It was the race that had the shortest amount of gaps between the top three, I think.
Yeah. I mean, even the whole top 10 coming in, there was, I mean, you had a sprint finish. There was, I think, the guys as well. There was
the guys also sprint
finishes all over the show. Just the level of competition so high, and again the intensity. There's less time to make decisions and problem solve. It's a whole other type of racing, which I think is exciting to watch and to develop in. And I mean, even like what you said now, you want to encourage people to not kind of breeze past it. If you
jump up,
if you look at the Golden Trail series now, I mean, like I think Meg McKenzie, another previous guest, I asked her specifically about that because we hadn't had another guest who'd like done the full circuit, and I know you've done a couple of the races, and it's like the standard there. It's like it's so competitive. I mean, there South Africans go, and if you place in the top 20, it's considered like a gold,
Yeah, it's so competitive, and so cool to see how in Europe it's not like the baby race at all.
Yes.
And I think because of the Golden Trail series, that's
once again, it's your people, Salomon. They're like building this incredible culture.
It's nice from Salomon. There's no pressure at all to do the longer distances either.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I know some other sponsorships, they want you to only do like the 100Ks, or they really are pushing the longer distances. Yeah, sure. So that's luckily
not the case.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Good sponsorship choices. And I mean, Lijan, so your prep for something like shorter, so let's take like a UTCT, the now 23K. I think you were there when it was 21, and now it's like 23, and to something longer like your otter. I know otter's incredibly, it's hard. That's like comparing chalk and cheese. And if you have another example for me that you would want to compare it to.
So otter is my longest race that I've done.
Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of marathon distance events, but this year hopefully a little bit more. Slowly building it up.
Yeah.
But so you're asking about the
prep, has it been very different for you? Or like you said earlier, you want to be fast for the longer distances. Do you keep the same intensity at the track? Is it a case of just extending your long run slightly on the weekend to kind of be comfortable with being out there for, 3-4 hours instead of your 90 minutes, 2 hours, which a lot of your racing you're finishing in like 2.5 hours, which is crazy.
Yeah, so it is a bit different when you're training for, my training for more marathon distance or more 20k or like a 10k on the road. So, but it kind of is mainly if I'm doing longer distances. Otter's very specific, so we do quite specific interval sessions, and then I'm not as much on the track at all, and then I miss it because I don't know my training group. I have to go do an interval session all by myself. So then it's pretty specific Otter, and the long runs are also specific, lots of stairs and elevation gain goals, and when it's a shorter race, then maybe the weekly mileage isn't as high, or the midweek bit of a longer run isn't as long,
but the intensity is there.
I mean, we still I love interval sessions. Like I think I told you like 2 weeks ago, I would rather go and do mostly I'd rather go do an interval session than an easy run all by myself. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that love intervals. So I like that. But compared to like a 10k road race, I think at the beginning of this year I was training a bit more road specific. I think a lot of trail runners did a road block, they called it. So I was also one of them, and I trained for Spa Ladies 10k. Wanted to run a personal best on the road, and there my training was definitely a lot of my long runs weren't that long. Not focused on elevation gain at all. Like my watch was telling me that I'm so bad at hills and I should do more hills, and my heel strength is bad, and my because my weekly elevation gain was very low. Anyway, is very low compared to the other trail runners out there. But done not a lot of elevation gain, and then easy runs were also just flat and a lot of road. So that's basically, and then intervals were also a lot on the track, so to train speed for the 10k.
Those 10k road races, that's another thing of easier, shorter isn't easier. Nothing hurts like 10k's on the road.
And on the road you can see exactly if you're going to reach your goal or not from the start. Like are you on the pace or not? Like it's not trail running, it's very different.
There's no like I can make this up on the down. It's like you're either turning it over or you're not.
So and I think a lot of people think that as a trail runner you don't need to be on the track, but I really think being on the track or building a lot of speed can help a lot on the trails.
For sure.
Just makes running, even if you're running at a much slower pace, it makes that pace so much more comfortable if you can actually run much faster.
The flat running, and even if you look at the start of all these races, like how hot everybody goes out, I'm like that speed before you hit the single track kind of bottleneck is gonna give you a good position.
If you're so comfortable at that speed and your heart rate doesn't spike, then
you're fine.
Giving
all the secrets out. I love it. And Lijan, I mean, I can't believe I always say this, time is flying, but we've kind of alluded to this exciting stuff in the pipeline coming up this year, but what is up next for you in terms of, I mean, you had a great run at Mutt, you are fresh off the podium at Old Fisherman's Challenge on Sunday. It was so nice to see you there. You had a good run at UTD as well. So what's up next for the rest of the year? So I'm actually planning a trip to Switzerland, and I'm going to I haven't told a lot of people. It's like out there. I'm doing Eiger 35. Great.
So I'm really just throwing myself into the deep end. It's got 2,500 meters of elevation gain.
Wow,
so it's like going up Stellenbosch mountain 2.5 times. So I'm very, very scared. I don't do, like I said, a lot of elevation training because we at the track and things, and just because a lot of my running buddies are more road runners, so we just do an easy run flat. So I really need to, in these next few weeks, do a lot of training. I'm going to go to Montreal and do some training there. But I got an email today. Actually, we've only got 5 weeks, so I think I'm not putting pressure on myself and expecting too much. I'm excited to have the opportunity and be there, and it's going to be hard, but
lots of lessons in the pipeline. Very
learn a lot, and overseas racing is really scary, but I think you must just do it.
That's good. Do the things that are tough, and then
and then for the rest of the year, like I said, I have a little bit more marathon distance events. I'll see how it goes as well, but Otter again.
Nice. Awesome.
The direction where I didn't have the great race, Reto. So let's see if I can improve.
And just redeem it.
And then hopefully I see that Cape Town Trail Marathon is now not the weekend after Otter. It's actually 2 weeks after Otter. So maybe if I'm feeling fresh enough, I can actually... I've done the 22K trails probably 3 or 4 times, and it's such a nice route. But maybe this year is time for me to do the 46. So I'll see.
Amazing. Nice, Lijan. Oh, exciting. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up in the pipeline.
I can't wait.
We're going to be rooting for you at Eiger, and then we'll see what happens after that. But Lijan, before we let you go, a last round of question is, what is a skill or a hobby that you have outside of running that people don't generally know about?
So I don't know about the people don't really know about that part, but I think it probably would be baking.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So I really enjoy baking, but then I don't really follow a recipe. I kind of make it up along the way, and I substitute basically everything for something else. So I healthify it, but not because I still wanted to satisfy the craving. So banana bread, I want to make it more protein in, and I want more fiber, and I want, when the recipe says 3 bananas, I put 8. So sometimes it flops. But what I've been doing recently, and this is a good tip, is you go onto ChatGPT and you say, I have bananas, I've got cottage cheese, I want to make a banana bread, I've got this in my house, and give me a recipe.
Way.
It works so well. It spits out this recipe, and then I still tweak it a bit, but it works so well, and I don't even have to go to the shop. It's just whatever's in your pantry.
I love that.
And
my gosh.
I made now 3 loaves pre all the different races, carbo loaded for that week, and they were all successful.
That is amazing.
So maybe that's probably
there you have it, guys. AI is changing our lives. We'll link Lijan's banana bread recipe in the show notes. I love that. But Lijan, thank you. This has been so cool. It feels like we've just had another catch up, which is great. We're rooting for you at Eiger and at Otter and everything, and we will follow along, and may this be the first chat of many.
Thank you so much. It was people that think podcasting is scary, it was less scary than I thought. So thank you so much. It was really great to be here.
Thanks, Lijan.